Okay. This might surprise you. You'll never guess where I'm going to start. It's at the beginning. I'm going to start at the beginning, and I'm going to ask myself, where am I? Where has the poet put me? And where do I end up? Yeah. Why weren't you opening your jobs? There you go. So annotate along with me. And what I'm interested in is the journey that I am taken on throughout this poem. Now, I'll warn you now that some of the interpretations I'm going to offer are mine. And you might go, no, I don't see it that way. And that's all right. That's fine. Okay? As long as you can support it. As long as you can do that, we're all right. So I end up with my speaker coming out of the forest. She leaves. Oops. And she's all alone, but she's singing. Why is she singing? And this is the best approach to a poem, is just keep asking questions of it. Some will resolve themselves, some will always be a bit sticky. For example, I've never got my head around this bit about the mushroom. Just can't get my head around that bit. But where are we in stanza 1? Well, we're somewhere physical and metaphorical. We're in a liminal space. We're at the end of childhood and we're at the edge of a town. At childhood's end, the houses petered out into playing fields. So there's ideas here about transition. The factory, allotments kept like mistresses by kneeling married men. Okay, so there's our first simile. And how's that working? There's something going on, and it's not just allotments, but allotments kept like mistresses. Okay, so there's something sexual in nature here, possibly clandestine or secret. What a weird juxtaposition to put allotments as though they're a kept mistress. I like it. The hermit's caravan and the silent railway line. Why is the railway line silent? What might that suggest? And why is someone living on their own in a caravan? So we keep asking questions of the poem. We never worry about getting the right answer on the first read through. But we're not scared of asking the questions either. Would anyone like to offer any interpretations for those three things? Or are we not feeling confident quite yet? I'm not asking you, Ruby, because you did it last year. Anyone? Okay. It was there that I first clapped eyes on the wolf. So who's this, I, and who's the wolf? So stanza 2, the wolf is described. He stood in a clearing, reading his verse out loud in his wolfy drawl. There's that lovely kind of assonance that's elongating. It's become almost onomatopoeic, hasn't it? A paperback in his hairy paw, red wine staining his bearded jaw. Now that's an interesting detail. Why didn't she say tomato ketchup? Or why red wine? Lois? Yeah, mature, sophisticated people drink red wine. What big ears he had, what big eyes he had, what teeth. So there we have the allusions to the fairy tale. But how are they working here? Does she seem scared? Go on, Ruby. Does she seem scared or something else?
No, she's very active.
She is very active, yeah. The eye first clapped eyes on him. Go on, Robin.
It's like mockery. It's like he's playing into the fairy tale.
Yeah, and what else does she feel about this man? She's excited, isn't she? She's excited by him. In the interval, I made quite sure he spotted me. Sweet 16, never been, babe, wave, and bought me a drink, my first. So there's that enjambment making us go right through to the third stanza. And the rush of all of those things happening suggests the speed at which this couple made a connection.
What have you written above my first?
Enjambment. Now let's just unpick this listing that Samantha drew our attention to. Sweet 16, never been, babe, waif. 4 ways in which she's describing herself. What word normally comes after never been? Sweet 16 and never been. What did you say? Kissed. Thought you said naked. I think the fact that she doesn't say kissed does imply actually the virginal, right? But she's just leaving that hanging there a little bit. Babe is also working in 2 ways. What are the 2 ways in which it's working? Luca? Like a baby, like innocent, from the fairy tale, Babes in the Wood. Nope, don't know that one. Well, there you go, you do now. Babes in the Wood. Or the Woods, Babes in the Woods. How many babies are in the woods? If you could chuck a baby in a wood, would you chuck a baby in a wood? I'm getting very confused. And also like a hot babe, isn't it? And bought me a drink, my first. So this poem is about a transition. It's a coming of age poem. It's about her first, the speaker's first intense kind of love affair with a writer. You might ask why. And it's not for the reason we first suspect. It's not to get laid. It's for poetry. What's really attracted her to this bearded man with red wine down his beard and his big ears is the fact that he's a writer. Look at that word standing on its own at the end of that line. Poetry. You are? No? The wolf, I knew, would lead me deep into the woods. So she knows what's going to happen. She's not tricked. She's not deceived. She's done this on purpose because there's something she wants from the wolf. Would lead me deep into the woods, away from home, to a dark, tangled, thorny place lit by the eyes of owls. So our settings have changed. We're no longer in a clearing. We're in a dark, tangled, thorny place. So we might want to think about what that's suggestive of. What's that asking us to think about? The power's shifted a little bit now, hasn't it? I crawled in his wake. The wake, imagine a boat, ship going out to sea, and the stuff that's behind it, that's called the wake, what's left in the aftermath. My stockings ripped to shreds, scraps of red from my blazer, as in a school uniform. Snagged on twig and branch, murder clues. Well, again, nobody's been murdered. So what's been murdered? I lost both shoes, but got there, wolf's lair, better beware. So that enjambment again takes us from this idea of loss into the lair. But this lair is somewhere where she's going to be educated. And I think it's safe to assume that this is her loss of virginity with the wolf. The first lesson was the love poem. Then I slid from between his heavy matted paws and went in search of a living bird, white dove, which flew straight from my hands to his open mouth. One bite, dead. How nice, breakfast in bed, he said, licking his chops. So there's something going on in these 4 lines as we move from them having sex to her wanting to do something. She's gone in search of a living bird. So what might that be? And then what's he done with it?
I'm thinking, like, obviously, white dove being pure.
Yeah?
Obviously, I was thinking, obviously, with loss of virginity, and when it says straight into his hand, like, off his mouth, as if he's actually talking virginity.
So, that's a nice reading, Max. Symbolic of her loss of virginity to him. Luca.
Dove is also peace.
Yeah, so purity and peace.
When he kills it, do you like him getting violent?
Possibly. Can we just widen out this idea of a living bird? What might she be looking for? Why is she gone with the wolf? Here's why. Why is she gone?
He's like to feel something.
To feel something. Here's why. What's the word that came after that? Poetry. So what might that bird be that she's looking for? Yeah. Her own creativity, her own living thing. And that sits alongside Max's reading, doesn't it? It's not one or the other, it can be both. But what does he do with her inspiration and her creativity? He stifles it, he snuffs it out, doesn't he? How nice, breakfast in bed, he said. So the tone, we've got this colloquial, casual tone, as though he's just been completely dismissive of what she's creating. As soon as he slept, I crept to the back of the lair, where a whole wall was crimson gold, aglow with books. So listen to that, unless you want to say books. But that lovely assonance, the richness, Yeah, she's there for him, but she's actually there for the books. But it's only while he, is absent. And he's absent here as he sleeps. And then she's going to actually have to remove him completely. Words were truly alive on the tongue, in the head, warm, beating, frantic, winged. And this is the evidence that I'm using to suggest my previous reading that the living bird, the white dove, is language, is inspiration, is creativity, because she uses it here again. Music and blood. Not quite sure what that bit means. And then we shift. We shift, don't we? Is this 5? Losing track. Yeah, that's 4. So 4, I might paraphrase that as she tries to write. And 5 is her kind of growing realization that he's not helping her develop. I don't know if any of this makes you think of Orsino with his howling after music. She tells us that she's with him for 10 years before she realises that maybe she just doesn't need him. There's enough out there. Maybe that's what the mushroom bit is. The mushroom can do its own work. The birds can do their own work. A greying wolf, he's getting older now, a greying wolf howls the same old song at the moon. How fat and fulsome to mine ear, howling after music. Year in, year out, season after season, same rhyme, same reason. This wolf's not writing anything new. So, and this is where you might just have to indulge my reading a little bit. I don't think I'm way off. Sometimes in order to create something new, we have to destroy what went before. We can't always just recycle. And if you think about the images of leaping salmons and weeping willows that are kind of staples of old romantic poetry, what she's doing is destroying those. Not to just annihilate them though, but to see how they work. I took an axe to a willow to see how it wept. I took an axe to a salmon to see how it leapt. I took an axe to the wolf as he slept. One chop, scrotum to throat. And what does she see inside? The glistening virgin white of my grandmother's bones. So whose are those bones that she's seeing? She started her writing, her poetic career, thinking that she needs this older man to teach her, to show her the way. And on that journey, she's realised that actually, maybe he's not as creative as he thinks he is. He's howling the same tune year in, year out. Maybe who she needs to connect with are the female writers that have gone before her. The ones that have been consumed by the male writers. The white bones of her grandmother are not bones, they're her words. They're her creativity that's been stifled by men. And so only when she's done that when she's realised that she doesn't need him and she can stitch him up, then she can come out of the forest on her own, with her flowers, with her symbols. And what's the singing? What's she singing? Bit of Taylor Swift? What's she singing? "20 minutes, 42, 43. What's she singing? Whose? Go on, Ella.
Poetry.
Whose poetry?
Her own.
Her own, yeah. She's coming out singing her own poetry. She doesn't need to be stuck in his lair anymore. Right.